Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing good today. Today I am going to show you how I made this halter neck A-line dress. I used about 3 yards of fabric. So guys, if you're new here, welcome. Thank you for tuning in. Please enjoy and also subscribe. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you for coming back. Please like, share and drop a comment. Let's get to it. This is the pattern I'll be using. Looking at this pattern, you see it is very basic. There is no under bust tightening, just the bust dart, the waist dart, that is all. Now let's work on the front pattern. The first thing I'll do is to close the bust dart. You know that for every dart we close, we must open a new one. But before opening a new one, I am going to draw the neckline. So on this pattern, I have 3 inches by 3 inches here already. So I am going to come down by 1.25 inch on this line. On the chest line as well, come down by 0.75 and then connect here to here. We are dropping the neckline because we don't want it to be too high up into the neck. So guys, after drawing this, I think that it is going to be too deep. So what I'm going to do is to retrace the line. I'm going to make it 1 inch and not 1.25. And then I'll just do a freehand first before using my ruler. Now we can proceed. In order to prevent gaping, I'm going to measure what I have on this line. I have 11, find the midpoint, that's 5.5. And then you connect it to the bust point. After doing this, on each side of the line, I'm going to take 0.5 inch and connect it to here. Now that I have connected it, I am going to open up the waist dart and then close this one. Looking at this, you see that the armhole line is no longer aligning, so I'm just going to retrace it. The next thing I'm going to do is to measure what I have here on this neckline, following the curve. I have 4.5. Write it down somewhere. So guys, I want you to note that for the neck depth, I used 3 inches here. So you can make it 3.5, you can make it 4 inches. Now after doing this, I cut it out. So this is my front pattern. Now for the back pattern. The first thing I'm going to do is to measure down here by 1 inch. So guys, when you're making the back neckline, make the neck depth more than 1 inch. What I have here is 1 inch. I'm going to make it about 1.75 inch. Okay, so now measure 1 inch downward like we did for the front and connect this mark to here. Unlike what I did for the front pattern, where I redrew this line because I felt that it was going to expose too much, I'm not going to do the same for the back because there's nothing to cover the back. But I'm going to take in the dart as well so that I can prevent gaping. Measure what you have. I have 11. Get the midpoint, that's 5.5 inches. Then measure 0.25 on both sides. And then close this dart. Looking at this, the armhole line is no longer aligning, so I am going to retrace it. Also, like we did for the front, before you cut out the neckline, measure what you have. Remember, I'm working with this brown line. I have 4 inches. and then I can cut this out. First, open the dart. So here I have the back pattern and here I have the front pattern. Now let's go back to the fabric. I have folded my fabric. I cut 3 yards of fabric into 2 and then I folded it like this. This is the back pattern. This line is going to be the back seam. Let's work on the back first. Draw a baseline. So I'm going to fold my zipper allowance inward and I'll place it on the line like this. Because I'm not going to add the zipper, on the waistline, which is this half length, I am going to ensure that what I have there is more than my bust measurement. The waist measurement that I'm going to have has to be able to pass through my bust. My bust is 36 divided by 4, that is 9. I'll add extra 2 inches, making 11. From this line, mark 11 inches. Then I'll add 1 inch seam allowance. Here as well, I'm going to add 1 inch seam allowance. Then I'll connect it straight down. From here, you determine how wide you want it to be. You can use the complete width of the dress, but I don't want it to be as wide as this. So I'm just going to come inward like this. And cut it out. For the pocket, go down by about 6 inches and notch. Now let's cut the front pattern. For the front pattern, place the neckline this way. So like I did for the back, I'm going to measure what I have here. It has to be more than my bust measurement divided by 4. My bust measurement divided by 4 is 9. 9 plus 2, that is 11, which was what I marked for the back. But when I measure here, I have 12. So I'm going to leave it at 12. And then I'm going to add 1 inch seam allowance, like I did for the back. Also here, I'll add 1 inch seam allowance. And then I'm going to connect. And then I can cut it out. So for the pocket, from the waistline, I'll come down by 6 inches and notch. The pattern is ready. Now I'm going to cut the pocket. I have 4 here. Now we are going to start to sew. For the back pattern, from this top part, I mark 7 inches downward. Okay, let's make it 8 inches, not 7 inches. 8 inches is fine. Okay, so from this 8-inch mark, I am going to sew downward to the hem. All right. Now for the pocket, open it this way and then you place it like this on the part we notched, right side facing. Remember we left the 1 inch seam allowance, so sew with the 1 inch seam allowance and top stitch. Here as well, do the same thing, sew with a 1 inch seam allowance and top stitch. We'll do the same thing for the front. Place it on the notch, sew with a 1 inch seam allowance and top stitch it. After that, use the bias tape to finish the armhole. Do the same thing here. And if you want to use the facing, then you can cut a facing for it. After that, place the right side of the fabric together like this, and then you sew. But because I wanted to have a slit at the sides, I'm going to measure about 22 inches from the hem upward. So I'm going to sew from here, and then I'll stop here. On this side as well, measure 22 inches from the hem upward, and then you sew from the top here straight down. You follow the pocket up to here, so this space is going to be open. All right, after that, we're going to work on the neckline, which is going to be the finishing part of this tutorial. Now let's do all of this, and then I'll show you how to cut the collar. So I've done everything. The only thing I have to do is the neckline. To cut the neckline, I'm going to be referring to the pattern. Remember that on this pattern, while we were drafting it, I asked you to measure the neckline and write it down. So for the front, I wrote 4.5 inches, and then for the back, I wrote 4 inches. Add both of them together, and that is 8.5 inches. Now multiplied by 2, I have 17 inches. Divide 17 inches by 4, and that is 4.25. Now fold your fabric into 4. I'm using a scrap fabric here. From the corner here, I am going to measure 4.25, which is going to be like my radius. After this, measure the height of the collar. I want the height to be 1.5 inch, so you measure 1.5 inch all around. Now to cut 0.5 inch above this radius, and then below this height as well. Notch. Here is the collar. Alright, so I have ironed a fusible interfacing on one of the sides. Okay, now I'm going to be adding a button and an elastic. I am going to get the amount that I need. This is about 2 inches. Now get the midpoint of what I have here. The midpoint is 1.25. Now fold the elastic into 2 like this and cross it. Place it on the mark, and then you place this one on it, right sides facing. Okay, then you pin it down and you sew with a 0.25 inch seam allowance from here up to here. So the only place that we are leaving unsewn is the bottom area, which we will be sewing to the neck of the dress. Okay, I have sewn it. The elastic is here. Notch this area so that it can relax. Now turn it to the right side and then understitch. To make your work easy, fold it 0.5 inch inward on both sides. Okay, fold it on top of each other, and then you iron all round. Okay, so guys, this is how it is looking. The next thing I'm going to do is to get the midpoint. Just put it this way and get the midpoint. Now sandwich the neckline center to center. This is the center front, this part that is notched. I'm going to sandwich it inside like this. Pin it. Okay, so this will be for the front. Now for the back, place the center back. Ensure it aligns with the edge of the collar. Okay, this part, put it in 0.5 inch. do the other side as well. So you sew it and then you top stitch with a 0.25 inch. After that, I am going to sew the button. Ensure it aligns with where this elastic is, and that will be all. Thank you very much for watching this tutorial. I hope it was helpful. Please like, share, drop your comments, and also ask your questions if you have any. Till we see again next time, please take care of yourself. Bye.